Greetings to my professor and my peers on internet. This seminar is being recorded for my seminar delivery course IDC 451. I'm Abhishekta from IISER Mohali, a fourth year physics undergrad. The topic for my seminar is quantum computation and current threaded courses to public key encryption like RSA and Shor algorithm. Now the big question for today is, are we actually doomed and our private keys aren't secure anymore? The security of internet depends on encryption. It allows your devices and a faraway server to send private messages to each other, like your emails, your passwords, your pictures of cat, etc., without anyone eavesdropping. Today's encryption works pretty well, but a sophisticated quantum computer can break it, and a universal quantum computer is likely to emerge in near future. But quantum computers are already here. Yeah, I know. There are quantum computers in the market, but these are not the scary ones. They use quantum annealing to solve certain optimization problems. They are not full-blown quantum computers that threaten our security. They are too highly specialized for that. But when the general purpose quantum computer comes, are we doomed then? So, can we really start talking about quantum computation without even mentioning Alice and Bob? So, here is Alice, and she wants to send some secret message to Bob. But the problem is, there is someone named Eve who, like in any Indian neighborhood aunt, wants to know everything that has been exchanged. Now, this is a big problem. Now, just think of Alice as your computer, Bob is the server, and Eve as a hacker. Now, this is a serious threat. Right? In 1970, James Alice, a British engineer and a mathematician, was working on an idea for non-secret encryption. It's based on simple yet clever concept. Lock and unlock are inverse operations. Alice could buy a lock, keep the key, and send the open lock to Bob. Bob then locks his message and sends it back to Alice. No keys are exchanged. This means she could publish the lock widely and let anyone in the world use it to send her a message, and she now only needs to keep track of a single key. Alice never arrived at his mathematical solution, though he had an intuitive sense of how it should work. The idea is based on splitting a key into two parts, an encryption key and a decryption key. The decryption key performs the inverse or undo operation, which was applied to the encryption key. Soon, British mathematician or cryptographer Clifford Cocks needed to construct a special kind of one-way function called trapdoor. One-way function is a function that is easy to compute in one direction but very difficult to reverse it. For this, you need a special information. For reversing, you need a special information called trapdoor. For this, he turned to modular exponentiation. Now, let us look at what is RSA and how it actually works. So RSA encryption work, and it's really just a basic introduction, so we can use them to understand how quantum version of these algorithm works. I chose two prime numbers, P and Q, and with those I just multiply them to get the number n, and now with the number n I can calculate this lambda function. For this I choose another parameter e, which is smaller than the lambda n value, and then with this n together with e, that is my public key. I can give this to everybody out there who I want to choose to be an isometric encryption, and I basically retain my private key, which is this number d here, which is just the modular inverse of the number e, which is the public key. Obviously, mod lambda n is always mod lambda n. Now you can easily see how this works. It's really straightforward. If someone has C, the ciphertext, and D, the private key by definition, C is m to the power e. So you see by definition of D that it is actually the inverse of e. So e raised to d just equals out, and so I need up to m mod n. So if I have the private key, I can easily recover the small m, and obviously by just reversing the padding scheme, I have now my message again. So this is basically how RSA encryption works in some detail. Now my task is, and I have the public key because that's public and everybody knows what's the public key. How do I turn this public key into private key? Now from the definition, it's pretty clear and straightforward. I need to find those prime numbers that make up this number n, and the number n is known as a part of the public key, and if I can do this, I can easily calculate lambda n, which is really just the least common multiplier of lambda p and lambda q, and from that I can easily derive the private key d, and then I'm done. Now, how to actually factor an integer? In 1994, a guy called Peter Shaw, he was a theoretical physicist, came up with an algorithm. If we were to use quantum computation, because obviously in 1994 there were just only theory, quantum computers did not exist and they hardly existed. But the theory says he came up with an algorithm of how to factor these numbers in just polynomial time. And it's just polynomial times really, it is the difference that there is almost incomprehensible, because it really means instead of taking a trillion years on a classical computer with a trillion operations per second, let's suppose have a quantum computer which just has a million operations per second. I can actually do the same thing in just 10 seconds. So the difference between exponential complexity and polynomial complexity is just out of this world, and that obviously we could run this algorithm and that would pose a big threat to basically the whole crypto system editors. As now, quantum approaches to factorization problems, both approaches can be used equally well to solve the factorization problem, and we have the Shor algorithm from 1994 which uses guides to solve this problem. And in quantum annealing we have various approaches since 2002, and one of its plot that was a little bit in next couple of slides, we'll be discussing about it. So Shor's algorithm comprised of three phases. First one is this turn this factoring problem into a period finding problem, and that's actually trivial. Then I use a quantum computer to actually give me this period, and to solve this period on a classical computer, I again really hard actually on a classical computer, still on exponential complexity, which means that this algorithm on a classical computer does not give me any advantage whatsoever. But I can use the quantum Fourier transform, and that gives me the speed up, and you won't have to period. I can really very trivially use this to find the factor. So stage 1 or step 2 and step 3 are really trivial. Step 2 is where all this magic happens, and that's where the main speed up comes. Now, so the problem with Shor's algorithm was that in order to do anything meaningful, I need a lot of qubits. So in order to use Shor's algorithm to break RSA 2048, I need 4000 qubits. And I needed 4000 proper qubits, meaning without any noise. I need for the time of computation, there can't be any noise on the computation, as well as it's not really surprising because when Shor came up with this in 1984, there were no quantum computers. He did not have to worry about, hey, can I really implement my logarithm or not? He really just came up with a system and a method. So it was never really meant to run on a quantum computer. And right now, lots of people look at Shor's algorithm and then see all right kind of, like they have 70 qubits. So it's every qubit count doubles every year. So I think it's like more 10 years before we have this Shor algorithm. And nobody's actually going to run this algorithm because it's just a theory. Now, though everybody talks about implication on cryptography, actually quantum annealing right now is much further ahead in terms of solving this factorization problem. And we are going to look into a little bit about how these algorithms work. So it is mentioned before quantum annealing that those computers are really computers and can solve an optimization problem. I need to define my problem as an optimization problem, and then basically quantum annealing computers can take this problem to find the minimum of this problem because it represents a physical site, and another physical state will always end up in the ground state, and I can read them this ground state, and half of my solution is actually done. So this is what I concluded. While Shor's algorithm has a lot of attention worldwide, QAC is currently 1,000-fold better than UKC approaches. QCs are way too noisy to be a threat anytime soon. But the problem is algorithms are being optimized heavily. QCs are getting better day by day. Shor's method was never actually meant to be implemented, and RSA algorithm can break, but it's just a matter of time and developments, and we can achieve. Now, right now, it is not possible to do so. So, yeah, we can sit back safely that keys are not getting destroyed right now. Now, these were the references I used. I would actually say that most of my lectures in my quantum computation and quantum information course helped me a lot while making these slides. And yes, thank you for listening with so much patience. And if you do have any queries, feel free to ask it in the comment section below. And thank you. Thanks for watching.